Hi friends, and welcome to Restored Kitchen. Today I'm going to be making a quick dinner, just hamburger steak, some macaroni and cheese, and some lima beans. This is a really super easy meal, so let's jump right in. So I have just one package of lima beans, and I'm adding about 2 cups of water. Then I'm going to season it just with some garlic, Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning. And you'll see me putting in right now some paprika, but my secret weapon is some ham concentrated flavoring from Goya. Because usually I will add some sort of pork to flavor this, but I don't have it on hand, so I'm going to use this instead. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of paprika as well as some pepper. I'm not going to add my salt yet because I don't want my beans to get tough. I usually add those towards the end, and sometimes I need to see if I even need them because the Tony Chachere's the Creole seasoning already has some salt in it. And also, this meal feeds about 3 to 4 people with a few leftovers, but be sure to check the description box so that way you'll be able to get the full recipe. And now I'm going to bring this up to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, we're going to put it on a medium low or a nice simmer. Okay, so now that our beans are going, we're going to go ahead and work on the hamburger steak. I have 2 pounds of ground beef, and I'm adding Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, salt, garlic, smoked paprika, pepper, as well as parsley flakes. And then to bind everything together, we're going to add 1 egg. And be sure that you check the description, as I'll have all of the amounts and ingredients and everything in the description as well. So now you have 2 choices. I'm going to add breadcrumbs. Now, if you don't have breadcrumbs, you can actually use a milk-soaked slice of bread. You just take a slice of bread, add a little milk to it on a plate or in a bowl, wring it out a little bit because you don't want it like super milky, and then use that as a substitute for your breadcrumbs. This will also make your meatloaf or meatballs or anything, even these hamburger steak, it'll make it really super juicy. But I don't actually have breadcrumbs, so I'm going to use them. And with my clean hands, I'm going to mix this meat mixture very well. You don't want little pieces of strong seasoning when you bite into this hamburger steak. So mix this up really well. Then shape your hamburger patties. I was able to get about, I think, 6 or 7 out of these. But even with the 2 pounds, these are very, very thick because I wanted that hamburger steak kind of quality. So these are extremely thick. Now, if you make your patties a little thinner, you can probably get 8. Usually out of a pound of ground beef, I get 4 hamburger patties. Once all your hamburger is together, we're going to set this aside and let that just soak up some of the seasonings. And we're going to prepare our pot of water and check on our lima beans as well. And they are at a roaring bubble. And I think I'm going to bring this down to a medium high. My stove goes from 1 to 10. And I'm going to place these on about a 7 just to get that roaring bubble. And also to my water, my pasta water, I added a little bit of chicken bouillon. This is going to take your noodles to another level. And now I'm using rotini noodles. That's what I had on hand, so that's what we're going to use today. And I'm just going to cook as directed on the package. Now, while I'm waiting for my noodles, I have heated my cast iron skillet. It is on about a 7 or 8, I believe about an 8. Usually I like to get it really hot. And I'm going to place about 3 patties in there at a time, just because I don't want to overcrowd my pan. And I'm just going to let these cook for about 5 minutes on each side. Now, I'm not so much worried about cooking these all the way through because they're going to cook further in the gravy. And all those good little bits at the bottom and that char, that's what we're going to be using to make our gravy. So while these are cooking, our noodles are done, and I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of butter. And I'm just going to give that a good mixture in here. Now, sometimes I make a roux, but I'm not doing that today. Sometimes I don't have time for that. And so this is what the real is. I'm going to add 1/4 to 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream or milk. This is up to you. I'm adding 8 ounces of white sharp cheddar cheese and just blending that in. You can also add mozzarella cheese. Parmesan cheese is real good if you want like a 3 cheese blend. And I'm just going to mix this in until it melts really good. Now I'm going to add a packet of Sazon. I love adding the Sazon. I love the flavor it gives. It's not overpowering. And then I'm going to add a little bit of Tony Chachere's in there, the Creole seasoning, as well as just a little bit of garlic. And I'm going to mix this up really well. This is super cheesy. I'm going to go in with a little bit more milk because I want it nice and creamy. And so now I'm going to add a little paprika to this because I'm baking my macaroni and cheese. Now, I don't know if that's a Southern thing or what, because like you know, in my family, we are very diverse in cultures, but we grew up in the South. So I like my baked macaroni and cheese. Now, I'm going to add this. This looks good. It tastes good. I'm going to add this to a baking dish. Don't make the mistake I made. Add your egg before you pour this in. I forgot all about it. And so now I'm going to add 1 egg to this. After I done sprinkled all my cheese on and everything else. So add your egg. Then mix that together really well. Adjust any seasonings and then add your cheese topping and sprinkle with paprika. That's the order that you're supposed to do it in. That's not what I did, so here's my correction. And so I'm just mixing more cheese in. It's just going to make it extra cheesy. It won't hurt anything. And sometimes I even like, instead of just sprinkling cheese, I like taking sliced cheese and just placing it on top. Sliced deli cheese. Now, the singles that's in the plastic wrapper, those don't melt quite as good. But if you have deli cheese, melt it. If not, take some shredded cheese, pour it on top. I know some people will shy away from baked macaroni and cheese because they say it's too dry. If your baked macaroni and cheese is too dry, it's because you're not adding enough milk. What happens is the egg will bind everything together. But if you're not adding enough milk, it's not going to be creamy. And you don't want to bring dry macaroni and cheese to your next cookout, the office party, the potluck, because we don't want people talking about you. So if you follow this, and there's 1,000,001 ways to make baked macaroni and cheese. So you follow a recipe. This is just simple and easy without making a roux, because sometimes I don't have time to make a roux. I'm trying to get dinner on the table quick and easy. But either way you decide to make it, whether making it with a roux or just making it a quick and easy way by popping some heavy cream or milk, melting butter and cheese. Either way, follow this recipe and it'll come out delicious each and every time. And I will show you guys how to make my roux macaroni and cheese as well. So let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. This is a smaller pan, so I'm going to put it about 425 for about 10 to 15 minutes. If it's a larger pan, I'd say cook it about 20 minutes. So now we're going to work on our gravy. I've got all my hamburgers made. Now we're going to work on our gravy, and lima beans are still looking good. I have 1 onion just diced, like a rough dice here, and I'm going to let these saute in those good just hamburger bits. And you can see they're stuck to the bottom. That's okay. That's going to go into our gravy and add more flavor. I'm also going to add about a tablespoon of butter. And that's just, because we are kind of making, now this we're making the roux for the gravy. Anytime you make a gravy, you need to have some kind of fat, either butter, bacon grease, oil, Crisco. You need to have something, and then you need to add flour. And then from there, whether it's milk gravy, add your milk. If it's brown gravy or broth gravy, add water or your broth. But I'm going to make kind of a milk gravy for this one. Now that our butter has melted, we're going to add about a tablespoon of flour, maybe a little bit more, give or take on how much gravy you're going to make. And you want your flour to kind of cook for a minute because you don't want a strong floury taste before you add your liquid. Now I'm going to add my milk, and I'm going to be honest, I probably added about 2 cups of milk. I added maybe a cup at first and then I went back in with another cup. Now, some people will tell you to pour slow, stir slow. That way you don't get no lumps. I like just pouring it in and stirring at the same time, just like this. I've never had any lumps, bumps, problems. So this is how I like to do it. But you do how you like to do it. But this is an easy and quick way for me. So I just kind of am mixing this up, scraping those bits off of the bottom. And I'm going to let this come to a little bit of a boil, and then I'll probably add some more milk. Now, my mom is the one who taught me how to make gravy. She's the one who taught me how to cook, period. But my mom would always whip up gravy, and it would just make a meal and take it over the top. Like, it was just a simple, easy way just to take a meal and just elevate it. And my mom, I think her milk gravy is probably still my favorites. So let me know in the comment whether you prefer the brown gravy or milk gravy, because I love milk gravy. I love milk gravy, sausage and gravy and biscuits. I love it all. But now that this is sat, I'm going to taste this and we're going to season it. I'm going to season it with paprika, some Tony Chachere's. I told you that's like my seasoned salt, garlic powder, and it just depends on what kind of flavor. I kind of want to bring out all the flavors that I added into the hamburger. So I'm going to just add all of this, give it a good stir. While we wait for this to come to a nice little bubble, I'm going to check on our macaroni and cheese. Oh, and this looks perfect. It's got a few crispy bits on top. Now, I could probably put this under the broiler and let it go even longer, but this is good just for tonight. We're just trying to get something on the table. And oh, look at the bubbles in that. Oh, it looks so good. Now, it would even look better for me if I had all my cheese on top, but you seen me miss that egg, but this is how it really is when you cooking. But these are the lima beans, and oh, they look so good. Now, sometimes I like to mash up just a few of the lima beans and mix it in. It just makes it just really thick, but this is perfect. So I'm going to let this sit on low in the back so that way that can just stay heated. I've added my hamburger now to this, and I'm going to let this just cook a little bit longer just to make sure that the hamburger is done. While we wait for this to finish cooking, if we haven't met, my name is Jennifer Scott. On this channel, we do all things recipe, gardening, homemaking, and more. So be sure that you hit subscribe. That way you won't miss any videos that I upload. Now, you see me taking this and stabbing it kind of halfway in the middle. I'm just making sure this is done and making sure that it cooks all the way through. This meal is now finished, just like the work Jesus did. If you like this meal and what we made today, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and let me know that you liked it. And the thing I love about this meal is it only takes 30 minutes to make. You can actually come home from work and go ahead and start the lima beans, start the noodles, go ahead and put the hamburger in and walk away, go do what you need to do, and then come back. It doesn't need to be something that you're standing over just attending to. So this meal is quick and easy. And I also love how we just take simple hamburger and just bring a whole new element to it just by adding some of that gravy and making it a hamburger steak. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did. I will see you in the next video. God bless.